extrovert, like someone who I talk to, we talk about like sort of like a well. Like the introvert has like a deep well, and it's just like thought, idea, the reservoir. And I think for the extrovert, the well is like it fills up and then they pour it out. Like they fills up and then they pour it out. They fills up and pour it out. They just keep
pain. I think we'll get into that too. Like we were talking about empathy before. It's like I have no problem relating with someone's pain or empathy. It's like I'm in touch with your emotions more than I'm in touch with my own. Like hip hop has definitely been therapeutic for me though, in that because even the way I'm talking right now has so much more emotion than when I was younger. I couldn't even talk like this. I couldn't even go, "Hey, what's going on, man?" I couldn't talk like that. It wasn't in my skill set. And little by little, hip hop has definitely brought me out of that shell, being able to emote and to be able to tap into, like you said, the lion, and now I remember that. Like, so whenever I have to go give a presentation that's not about hip hop and just about me talking or whatever, now it's like, yo, remember you're a beast. Remember you're a lion. Remember.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit y'all with something that'll help. So take it to public speaking. We should do a whole episode on public speaking. So here's the thing about public speaking. I think most people who are introverts have been told like, "Oh, you're not good at public speaking. You're an introvert, right? You're timid." Oh yeah. I was like, no, it's just that the thing that you probably do well is seen as a crutch, right? Like if you're charismatic and you're outgoing, that's seen as like, oh, that's a good public speaker. It's like, no, that's just their gift. They're charismatic.
Right.
What is your original unique idea behind it? And I think maybe for the extrovert, like someone who I talk to, we talk about like sort of like a well. Like the introvert has like a deep well, and it's just like thought, idea, the reservoir. And I think for the extrovert, the well is like it fills up and then they pour it out. Like they fills up and then they pour it out. They fills up and pour it out. They just keep
pain. I think we'll get into that too. Like we were talking about empathy before. It's like I have no problem relating with someone's pain or empathy. It's like I'm in touch with your emotions more than I'm in touch with my own. Like hip hop has definitely been therapeutic for me though, in that because even the way I'm talking right now has so much more emotion than when I was younger. I couldn't even talk like this. I couldn't even go, "Hey, what's going on, man?" I couldn't talk like that. It wasn't in my skill set. And little by little, hip hop has definitely brought me out of that shell, being able to emote and to be able to tap into, like you said, the lion, and now I remember that. Like, so whenever I have to go give a presentation that's not about hip hop and just about me talking or whatever, now it's like, yo, remember you're a beast. Remember you're a lion. Remember.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit y'all with something that'll help. So take it to public speaking. We should do a whole episode on public speaking. So here's the thing about public speaking. I think most people who are introverts have been told like, "Oh, you're not good at public speaking. You're an introvert, right? You're timid." Oh yeah. I was like, no, it's just that the thing that you probably do well is seen as a crutch, right? Like if you're charismatic and you're outgoing, that's seen as like, oh, that's a good public speaker. It's like, no, that's just their gift. They're charismatic. Check. Check. I guess Pro is here somewhere. We both kind of jumping in here. All right, well, welcome to the intro.
Yo.
What up?
I'm in the room, but for some reason, my mic still hasn't kicked in on the actual show.
All right. Check. I can hear myself on the show. If you're on Clubhouse, if you're on the replay, we just getting started on our restream on Facebook. Pro's trying to figure out why he can't hear himself on restream. I don't know if you're talking now. I don't hear anything on restream. I don't hear or see you.
Definitely have an issue.
Yep, I see the P and I see the logos.
Once I hit go, for some reason it's not kicking through on Restream. I had it all set, but it's not letting my mic pick up. This happened once before a few weeks ago.
Did you try to close the whole tab? That's what I had to do one time. I didn't just leave the restream. Like I literally closed the whole tab.
Yeah, I'm about to do that.
All right. All right. Well, while Pro is getting set up, welcome to IntroVerse. We usually, we don't like to waste time. But today, sorry for those listening. We can talk about public speaking today, and I'm also going. I sound like Pro. I'm gonna publicly eat. So if you want to replay on Clubhouse, we're just fixing some technical stuff on the restream. My food just got delivered. It was over an hour ago. I like to be done before I get started, but here we are. We'll turn this into like they do those mukbangs. They try to eat all the food, but turn this to a IntroVerse mukbang. I try to get my students to do that on the podcast. It's like, dog, sometimes trying to get students to do stuff is, I was like, dog, you could do a podcast where you just eat. And it's like, I guess they want you to do everything. All right, I can see Pro now.
Can you hear Pro?
I don't hear any Pro.
I hear Pro.
I don't hear any Pro.
I see the mic for Pro.
I hear nothing. We might have to restart this whole stream.
So I see the bars now for me when I'm talking. They're actually going through on Restream, which they weren't doing before. So I might be close.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
I see you. I don't hear you. I hear you on Clubhouse, but that's it.
Check. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Yeah. Almost. We're almost there. We almost there. Check. Check. Come here, Mom. She went to check. Okay, she'll be home soon. I can open the garage and talk to her. Stay in the garage. Okay, she'll be home soon. I can open the garage and talk to her. Stay in the garage.
Check.
So Bernard,
The new link. I can't hear you.
it's working.
You can hear me. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
So Bernard, I'm listening to the broadcast live on Facebook, and you can hear me speak. For some reason, you just can't hear me. Bernard, I'm listening to the broadcast live on Facebook.
Okay, interesting. All right, let me go out one more time and come back. Okay, interesting.
So we figured out the problem. Bernard can't hear me. Let's try this out. What up?
Check.
Nothing?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know why. I changed my audio. I changed.
Well, maybe we just have you hear me through the headphones of Clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you through the headphones of Clubhouse.
All right. Can you speak in Clubhouse? Say something again.
Check. You just went a little
Yeah.
low. What happened?
Okay. Can you? Well, this should work. I mean, we just do it in reverse. Yeah, 1 2 1 2.
Hold up. This is not.
We're gonna make it work. We're like 90% there now.
Dog, I had this connected to the Bluetooth. Why does it not?
This was like one of those psychological experiments where the people have you believing it's you, and it's like it's the other person. I was like, I'm thinking it's me. There actually was an issue on my side though to begin with, which was the funny part, and the issue has now swung over to you. You got headphone head. Messing up the back of your hair with your headphones. 1 2.
All right, go ahead and talk.
1 2.
Keep talking.
I'm gonna turn down my volume on the computer though. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I mean, I could barely hear you on Clubhouse.
Oh, all right. Well, let me bring the mic from Clubhouse closer to me. Let's see. 1 2 1 2. That's always because of my loose cable thing. We're like the misfit army here. 1 2 1 2 1 2. How about now? How about I just don't use headphones and I just talk? That'll work.
I guess it's not ideal, but
I mean, there's no feedback, right?
Well, I got on the Clubhouse. I got the Clubhouse on my headphones now, so it's not gonna go back through the mic.
Okay.
And I'm not. Since I can't hear you on Restream,
Well, we're both broadcasting clearly on Restream.
Say that again.
We're both broadcasting clearly on Restream, though.
All right.
I'm watching the levels, and I listened live when I switched over to my own Facebook. I could hear it coming through fine. So it's just like we're in Clubhouse.
All right. Well, sorry to waste the listeners' time with tech stuff.
Yeah, but we there.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
Wait, first I got to put it on the screen. Who is that talking? It is Bernard Hankins. Bernard Hankins, read the sub caption.
Poet, rapper, musician, educator, philosopher, architecturally sound.
I had to go with like sort of an adjective at the end. I didn't want to call you an architect. I wasn't sure if you take kindly to that where you're not like practicing. So I figured architecturally sound would cover it. You tell me. Can I call you an architect? I never know.
Or you could take that and say, as someone called me, like, I am the architect of sound.
Ooh, dope. Nothing wrong with that. I like that. I am not. I am officially now. I want to put this out there. Let me adjust this here. I'm officially a baseball umpire. I just want to throw that out. I did some umpiring yesterday. And so check this out, Bernard. You know, I was talking before, and I was saying umpiring is way more of an introverted feat than you might express or believe. Yesterday was extremely so. And let me tell you, I was enthusiastic about it. They told me about an hour before my game that I was going to be umpiring alone. And I was like, yes. I was like, not because I didn't want to meet the other person, just because the mistakes are covered up. You just go, oh, there's just one of me. Sorry. I didn't make that rotation correctly or whatever, you know? So it was a wonderful first day. I had no partner, and I would prefer it that way.
Well, it's funny. I was watching, it's one of those shows. I can't remember what sitcom it was. I can't even remember the actor. If you saw him, you'd be like, oh, it's that guy. But he was, I guess he was going through a midlife crisis, and he wanted to start umpiring little league games. And so he did all this training to get ready for it. And then, you know, his first game, he was out there and he was letting kids warm up, and he's standing around. He was like, to one of the little kids, he was like, so when you think they're going to start this thing? And the kid was like, I don't know. I guess when you say play ball. And it's just like, I probably would have done the same thing, because like you're always like waiting for somebody else to do the thing. You're like, all right, like I am the umpire and I have to say play ball, and then it gets started. So you got me thinking about that. You're the umpire. You're definitely an introverted, because you're like, all right, I'm the one who has to initiate. Like no one else is in charge. I'm in charge.
Yeah. You are definitely in charge when you know. You know, I was just thinking one thing here for this broadcast. I'm thinking, for whatever reason, my headphone jack is not working wonderfully in my head. So we might have one more technical thing, which I'm thinking that people might be hearing an echo on the live broadcast because I'm needing to speak without my headphones on, which is weird. Every time I plug them in, you're probably not hearing me as well because of this little jack that's messing up. I'm sure if I'm doing it right now, you're experiencing what I mean. It's probably going in and out. So when I'm talking right here, I think I got it. So I'm going to have to, keep you low, move you away from the computer mic when you're talking. And then, no, I think I got it. I think it's going to be a lot of manual labor on my part, but essentially I plug in my headphones every time you speak so the people don't hear you speaking twice through my computer mic, and we should be good. I think we got it now. But yeah, the umpire thing is like the crazy part of the situation right now in the country, and this is really telling for a lot of things going on out there right now. We look like crazy people too with our headphones, and people looking at us. We're like, yep, Bernard got 2 sets of headphones on. Looks like he's speaking to the aliens. And I have like one over one ear, not the other. Now, what it really is there's a shortage right now nationally of umpires. And there was a story about it 2 weeks ago. I forget the major publication. I could probably search it. But it's just dwelling on why. And, obviously we talk about the exodus from education or whatever, but there's an exodus in a lot of industries, especially where people have had to deal with a lot of crap. And you think about umpires, they have a lot in common with teachers, and it's like you're running the show, you're dealing with a lot of crap. There's always somebody who's not happy. And I was thinking about it yesterday when I called a third strike looking on the batter, probably only about 5 times for the whole game, right? But that inherently means that somebody's disagreeing with you every time you do that. Like every time a batter doesn't swing and you say strike, there's a disagreement between you and the batter. Every time that you say, ball, there's a disagreement with you and the pitcher. Now there's not always a disagreement with the pitcher. Sometimes the pitcher knows it, but basically it means every pitch there's somebody who doesn't like what you're doing, and the crowd will let you know. And I only heard maybe 1 or 2 things, and they were kind of in jest yesterday from the crowd, and I didn't tell these were 14-year-olds playing baseball. I didn't tell anyone until after the game that it was my first game. I walked in like I was the man. I've been doing this for years. I just totally was acting it. And then after, they were like, "Hey, good game up." And I was like, "Thanks. Hey, just want to let you know that was my first one ever." They were like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah." They were like, "By yourself?" I was like, "Yeah, man." And it's just a lot of posturing and posing and just acting like you're correct. You know what I'm saying? Right. But there were 3 things that I basically screwed up. But again, you're by yourself. It's not bad. I don't think I screwed them up horribly. 2 of them you could argue that I didn't screw up. It's just the judgment thing. One of them I definitely screwed up. I didn't call the infield fly rule on a pop fly to deep second base. And quite honestly, it was because I did lose the ball in the sun. And I was just like, "Oh, I hope that's in the outfield." And it wasn't. He caught it. And I should have yelled, "Infield fly if it's catchable," or something like that, And he did drop the ball. And for infield fly rules, the whole thing is you don't want to let the team get an automatic double play on you by trying to drop the ball, right? And it worked out that there was 1 out, so no team was really too upset. But and there was 1 play at home plate where it was like interference, and I didn't call interference because in my estimation, the batter was trying to get out of the way, stayed in the box, which is part of the rule, and kind of tripped on the ball. And I was just like, the spirit of, and they were losing 12-3. It was like penalize this team even more if the dude was trying to get out of the way. And I'm like, the nature of the rule, has to come. Like, why do you have the rule there, right? To prevent a disadvantage kind of thing, And the dude was doing what he could. He was in the batter's box, and you're trained as a batter to kind of stand there and not do anything. So there's those kind of things, And other than that, I think I got most stuff right. But very solitude based kind of endeavor. Like it. I like the idea of saying, "Hey, you know what I'm going to do on a beautiful Saturday? I'm just going to go stand outside, get some exercise." By the way, you do on average in a 9-inning game 270 squats. So my legs today, I was feeling it. I was like, "Woo!" So very solitude endeavor,
Right.
which I think would bode well for other extroverts. Introverts. You're looking to find out what you could do. Go umpire a game by yourself.
Well, I'll take something you said to segue into the topic, which is the public speaking myth. Okay, so the idea behind the public speaking myth. I've taught a few. I guess I don't really. Yeah, I've done a few workshops on public speaking. There was a point where Google had this thing called help outs, where they took hangouts, but it was supposed to be like these live classes. It didn't last long. It didn't really catch on, but I thought it was a really cool idea. And then I taught one in person. And I said the most important thing about public speaking of any presentation is you. That's how I start. And like, you are the most interesting thing about your presentation, because everything else is usually facts or data or stuff that people know. So if you're going to talk about climate change, it's like, okay, cool. Like I can look that up on Google. why did I leave the house to come listen to you tell me something that I could have looked up on my phone? It's like, I want you to present you when I'm in front of you. But that's the one thing. Like I think the first myth is people assume that public speaking is about someone who is like dynamic and charismatic and like outgoing and has a certain kind of voice. It's like, no, it's about someone who is interesting. I remember, who was it? I was watching something about a comedian, and they were saying the point of comedy is not necessarily to always be funny, but to be engaging. So like if you notice some comedians, like they're not constantly telling a joke from second to next second. Like they're not always telling joke, but they are pulling you along, stringing you along, adding this little thing. Like, what's he gonna say next? What's she gonna say next? And then punchline. So I would say, like, to me, the most important thing is, can you engage the audience? Are you excited about the thing you're talking about, and not necessarily outwardly excited? Like, are you passionate about the thing that you're talking about, so that you're first engaged with yourself, and then you're selling that product to the audience? Because I always tell people, like, how are you going to sell a product to somebody that you don't even believe in? So if you're up on the stage and you don't really care about what you're talking about, the audience is going to read that. But the biggest myth of this all is, I think, this is the broad of what I consider this topic, is like, oh, introverts are timid and they're afraid of people, and they don't like talking, and they don't like crowds. It's like, no, like, in actuality, introverts should be dominating the public speaking domain. Because, like you were saying the other week about, like, think about a TED Talk. Like, a TED Talk is probably really for the introverted crowd. Like, this is the place where people want to go to talk about ideas and talk about things of the mind. The only difference is, like, when you're on stage, you actually have to verbally articulate those things in a cohesive way that keeps people's attention, and you're verbally engaged with the audience. But what's in your head is the potent stuff, right? Introverts sit around thinking all the time. So maybe there is some training that has to be done where you say, okay, how do I take these thoughts in my head that I think about all the time and form them together so when I get on stage, people want to pay attention to them? Yeah, there's an art to that. But this whole notion of just like introverts are inherently somehow like inept and can't do public speaking, I think is a lie. I think that's just a lie that people came up with.
Yeah, it's funny. I know I think I know the background of the TED that you did. I actually applied for one TED Talk on the recommendation of somebody else, and I actually didn't get it. And partially it was because I was at an out-of-state funeral that I traveled for, and at the last second I traveled back for it, same day. And there was a lot going on, and I really had no time to do any kind of preparation. Just figured I'd have to wing it and say, oh, what I do, I guess, is cool enough. People will get the idea, and they'll be like, yeah, we want to have that guy. But it just so happened they were a very anal TED Talk group. They were really hung up on, like, they were doing the coaching before it even started, and they were making sure everyone got it. They didn't want any bums, anything like that. And quite honestly, me and the coach person that I had, we kind of agreed that this probably wouldn't be best, and and they did 3 rounds of tryouts kind of thing. And I think yours, I remember you telling me a little bit about yours, like you ended up winning the whole contest to actually get in the thing. And, I'd been to one of those as well. And what I noticed in the one that I didn't get into, and quite honestly, if I'd put in 2 hours of time, I probably would have gotten in, because I did the intro. I told them what I was going to talk about. They loved it. They did another section with me. They loved that. And then on the last one, when I was supposed to have something polished and I didn't, they were like, yeah, maybe not, and I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm with you, because I really didn't get to prepare. What I noticed, though, was all the people who didn't make it were over the top extroverts. They were trying to promote themselves super hard. They were there like with business cards, they had the whole outfit. They were there like it was the biggest event of their life. And it dawned on me how important it is for people to get TEDx's, at that time. And this was well, I can tell you how long ago. It was 6 years ago. And I guess I didn't really know the whole deal. Like, I knew when I got my first TEDx talk that I did, it was a big deal, but I didn't realize that people were lining up trying to do them, because I was speaking at an event and a guy pulled me in and said, yo, we want you to do a TED Talk. That was it. That's how I did it. I didn't like apply whatever, like I did for that later one. And then I figured it out and I went, oh, this is where all the people who want to talk come. And the funny part is, all the people who made it were the people that were much more reserved, and the people that were just had an unbelievably interesting story to tell that was genuine, and I think that's key though for to the point of the whole title, public speaking. With your point, it starts with you. You either have to be interesting or something that's happened to you has to be interesting. I look at myself this way, like I don't think of myself as a, despite what people will say, right? I think there's a nuance here. I don't consider myself very interesting. I consider the idea of myself interesting. Like I think I'm relatively boring in real life, right? and and I think anyone who knows me for any amount of time who's not into the kind of stuff that you and I maybe talk about on the regular would definitely agree. They'd be like, "Yo, this dude's sitting around reading books and he's writing and he's into his music and he doesn't really go out and talk to people or whatever." But I do get what it is that we're selling when we're on a stage, right? I get that people find that interesting. So I highlight those points and I'm cool with highlighting those points that the people want to hear. So you tap into kind of like what it was at that TEDx with all those people. I'm tapping into what it is they want to hear, the ones who didn't make it. As well as the people who did make it, who are your peers of interesting people who I said, and you just referenced, I think the crowd is made up a lot of introverts, but there's definitely extroverts in the crowd too. It's not balanced, but I might roughly guess 70-30. It's very academic types and very, save the whales and save the trees kind of crowd, definitely. Which I'm probably a part of, but I'm not over the top. I'm vegetarian, but I'm rocking leather. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, like I look at the plastic bottles and I go, man, we probably shouldn't use plastic bottles. That's probably harming the earth. And then every now and then I follow up, like that's about where I am in that mix. So I'm maybe in the playing field, but I'm not like totally in there. And not saying that these are one-to-one correlations on what an introvert and extrovert is by any stretch, but there are certain themes that we can see that go along with, okay, that's the academic crowd. And in that academic crowd, there are a heck of a lot of introverts in that crowd. And then over here are the typical extroverts that are coming to see or be the show. And I think whenever we're speaking, we have to think about what is it that both sides of the pendulum would find interesting and really embrace the things that we find dull that are interesting, especially to other extroverts, and be like, yo, I find this to be the dull part. Like the rapping part, like I get it, it's cool, but really I'm working right here in the same room when no one's around, putting in all the work, and you're seeing the 5% of it that you think is the cool outcome. But if you like what I'm doing, it's not because I'm jumping around on stage, it's because I'm in the lab, working, same as you. So that's my first interesting thought about it, and why I'm okay with the public speaking part, because I'm always going to talk about this. I'm going to say, yo, the work in the lab, because that's what inspires me. I want to go be that person and sit there and hear the boring story that the extrovert would say is boring about how someone was doing the work in the practice lab. And maybe that's the reason why we don't see enough practice. Like I'm always talking about it, NBA. I want to see the dudes doing dribble drills. I'd rather watch that than a game in many cases. Show me the dribble drills. Show me the shooting drills. Show me what you had to do to get to your point of excellence. The show, the game, unless it's like really good and I'm really into a couple of players, I'd rather see you practice because I find it inspiring.
Well, that makes me think of one. What were you saying? What was the thing you said?
The fact that it's crawling with extroverts.
Yeah, I'm like you. Like I find it's a, like you're saying, it's a nuanced thing because like I'll say it this way, from the outside looking in, there are probably people who are like, oh, this person's so boring. Or if you don't know me, right? Like some of my students, they're like, oh, Mr. H, what you do this weekend? I was like, I'll make beats. And they're like, oh, okay. Like to them, they're like, well, like, why would you do the thing at home that you do here for us, that you teach us? It's like, because I love it. Like, because that's like, I'm passionate about that.
Living the dream life.
Because like my inner world is like on 10 at all times. And since you can't feel that inside my mind and my heart, you probably like, oh, this person's just stoic. He probably doesn't have any fun. He doesn't go to the club. And I'm like, if you were inside my brain, you couldn't stand like this club in here. You couldn't last 5 minutes. You'd be like, it's too loud. Get me out. Like, I'm out. So, I mean, comedian Kevin on stage, he talks about that too. He's like, look, I don't do nothing. He's like, I go perform. I go to the green room. I go to the hotel. Like I said, people trying to take me out, and it's like, nah, I'm not trying to get involved in nothing. I don't want to be ever even appearance of scandal. I'm not having no drinks with nobody. He's like, I'm going to the hotel, calling my wife. He's like, that's it. That's what I do. He's like, I don't do nothing.
You want to protect your asset. You know what I mean?
Right,
You want to protect that.
right. But to your point about like, having to talk to the introvert and the extrovert, this is why I get into my whole, introvert and extrovert is not just a personality type, but it's like a vehicle you get into. So for me, like when I get on stage, I know there is an extroverted dimension or element that I have to connect with. So like when I did my TEDx open mic, like I knew everybody else was gonna be like the TED voice, like, when I was 5, I had a situation in my house. And it was a balloon. Like everybody does that same voice. And I'm like, yo, this is like, you can speak as a regular person, but there's this TED
like
voice that everybody falls into. Yeah, it's like spoken word, or like I would say, spoken word voice, TED voice, phone voice, grocery store. Everybody has all these different voices. Like, number one, I don't want to do that anyway. But I also know that if that frequency is like this the whole night, people are like, they're just like monotone. So you gotta go up, or you gotta go down, or you gotta like, twister, you got to put a filter, like we do at hip hop, you got to put like a auto tune on it or something, you got to put something on it, an echo, a delay, some reverb. So when I went out there, I said like this, I said, look, we all know schools have always segregated the coloreds and the blacks and whites. And so I let that kind of like, go out in the air, and everybody was like, oh, what's he getting into? Like, what's going on? I said, the colors are the people who see the world as imaginative and rainbow. I said the blacks and whites are the people who see the world through black and white logic. And then now I'm letting the like thoughts, they're like, oh, okay, I thought he was talking about race, but now he's talking about something. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Like I go out there and purposely mix it up. I go out there and purposely
did he say coloreds or did he say colors?
Right. So like, yeah,
Like,
you let them go like, huh? I think I actually went out. I said, okay, let's get straight to the point. Like I start off with like a verbal like knife. Okay, guys, let's go. Like just like we've talked about, when you do poetry, there's a rhythm, there's a rhyme, there's a meter that's different than just like, good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking. Like you're already got people lulled, right? The word monotony, if you break it down, is monotony, right?
Right.
Monotony, monotony. When you're monotone, people are like, that's going to get old after. Like, no, if you heard a drum snare just hitting, over and over and over, you're like, okay, like tune this out. That's why drummers go. It's got to be different. So I already knew that the sort of extrovertedness was going to be attention grabber. Like I already know, like you're sitting in a chair just like in school where someone's talking to you and they're trying to teach you and you're ready to leave. I was like, I got to do something to get you excited. Am I going to go out there and be like, hey guys, oh, I'm Bernard Hankins, welcome? No, that's not me. But I know, like, I got to do something, to use the word for like arresting. Like I got to arrest you. Now that I've got your attention, it's like, okay, now you will listen to me. Now I'll let you say some stuff, but I got this other thing I did is connected to all that stuff I just said.
Monotony. I like that. There's such monotony here. You know who's the most monotone? I get on it all the time. The most monotone are science and math teachers. I mean, it's just scientists in general are very monotone people, and there's really not much. You get to come in with all the accolades and do. I've mentioned some of the bigger name ones I've done where I'm going in and quote unquote teaching students to be more human when they present their science and math information, right? And you get all this like here comes a big expert on it, and it's like basically boils down to what you just said. Stop being monotone, right? Like break out of the I need to speak like a scientist tone because that's how the rest of them talk. It's all a cult. I mean, it's like there's the spoken word cult, there's the academic cult, right? There's the corporate cult. I mean, it's like these things that we believe and we I mean, I feed into them too. You know, I've talked about it before, but at least I'm aware of it now. And now I'm like, okay, I'm breaking out more and more. You know, we do it here on Clubhouse. You get in Clubhouse, you can go watch your same people that you're in a room with typically, and then jump into a room that says, yo, let's keep that hood ratchet talk on point, you know, blah, 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 or any kind of title that suggests that it's going to be some, you know, ratchetness going on or whatever. And everyone just falls right in line. And all of a sudden, no one can complete a straight English sentence, you know, and everyone's like talking as broken as they possibly can to hood it up, you know, and we see those expectations. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, you know, if you're going for a job interview, you don't talk like that, you know? And it's like somewhere between job interview voice and Clubhouse ratchet room is probably your true center. And it's a lot more easy to try to just be true center because you don't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Your true center can switch over time. It can go either way. I've definitely been a part of that. My true center has moved. And then you do this resentment. You have this resentment needle where it's like, I don't want to switch up. And then you have the other way around when you get mad when you see people switch up because you're mad that they got more freedom than you. You know? And it's like, you got one of them jobs where you can actually keep it a buck, you know, and I don't, you know, like I've been on that. So now you just kind of go in and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in true middle, you know, and try to keep true middle. And it's part of this whole introvert extrovert stuff we're doing. It's like, what is your true middle? We talk about that all the time on the pendulum of how introvert you are, how extrovert you are. And I think part of it is knowing kind of where you fall so that you can have an idea of when you rev it up, maybe what's that going to be like. And then who are you communicating more effectively with? I mean, communication at the end of the day is 100%, not 100%, is a strong percentage of imitation. We learn the way we speak by imitation. I mean, think about how weird accents are. You know, think of a British accent. And then you think, okay, if you didn't live there, you literally wouldn't have that because you listen to everybody else who doesn't talk like that. So, and then at some point you become aware of it. And then you would like to think that you'd probably lose that accent regionally, right? You'd probably lose. I know I have. I was listening to videos the other day. My man Fee posted of when we were like 19, and I'm listening to my accent. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how I ever like spoke like that. My son was listening. He was like, Daddy, that's not you, is it? It didn't even look like me either, because I was like, you know, 50 pounds heavier, my way more hair, and he's like, oh yeah, I can see that that's you. You know, I'm like, yeah, man. But you couple it with the voice, it's like, man, that's a whole different person and talking, no regard to anything, just speaking. You know, it's like you just become more aware. And it's as we talk on this stuff all the time, it's like I think the thing for introverts to be aware of is to first of all even figure out if you are in that bucket, and if you are, what side you're on, and what is the stuff that it stops you from doing effectively, or what is the stuff that it makes you appear like, what are the things that it hurts you, and what are the things that it might help you. And you know, we look at all these tests, right? The strengths test and the strengths finder, and even though I represent some of that for my university, it's like I've always had some pushback with it because, like, wait a minute, I can just as easily argue that we should be building up our strengths. I mean, building up the things that we're weak at, right? By working on those things that you're not good at. I work at things that I'm not good at all the time. But in the workplace, they're like, well, let's capitalize on what you're already good on, you know, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel and train everybody to be someone they're not. That part's appealing. But it's like, wait, you're not going to tell me that I shouldn't be working on myself, because this whole thing to me, even this whole show to me, is about working on yourself and figuring out getting in where you fit in, and how much of a grind it's going to be for you to be like, yo, so do you want to be a newscaster? Like, that's pretty extrovert, I would think. Or like, what's the most extroverted job we could possibly think of? Like, bartender? I could never be a bartender. I know that. I could talk to one or two or three people or whatever, but I would just be so done at the end of the night, because it reminds me of club promotion, loud music, drunken stupidity all around me all the time. And it's like, bro, I don't even want to talk to you because it's your drunken self. Now, if there was a bar that people came into and they want to talk philosophy or something, maybe sign me up, you know, but we think about these things like where we fit in and what we're good at and what our strong suits are. And then, you know, I think it can kind of help for you to think about, you know, how you would make that work for you, and how you'd make public speaking work for you is a great topic. If you're somebody who thinks that I am an introvert, so it's hopeless, and it's like, well, I guess what we're trying to say is, nah, that's not true. There is some myth there.
Yeah. To what you're saying about accents, I never understood accents. Like, I guess when I was, when you heard someone else with an accent when you're younger, I guess I always assumed an accent was kind of like, I don't know, like built into your vocal cords or something. Like, oh, these people just that's how that's
I
their
thought you were going to say
voices.
a problem. I thought you were going to say a problem with the person.
No, I just assumed like, some people have certain skin colors, and so you're born with a tone of skin, so you're born with a tone of voice.
There
And
it
it
is.
wasn't till I heard till later in life where people's like, oh no, you lost your accent. I was like, what do you mean you lost your accent? To me, okay, but I think it goes what you said about awareness. Because to me, I'm very aware of myself, and I'm very aware of culture. I'm very aware of trends. So I know when a particular, like even slang, like I watch the kind of ebb and flow of slang. Like I hear what words are in use and who's saying what, like phrases where people like right now, people's like, oh, I'm here for that. Or what else are people saying right now? Like right now, it's kind of a weird slang phase. I'm trying to, like, some people still say cap, but that was definitely something I heard like 6 years ago when I first started working at the high school. Um, People say, yo, that's tough. Like the kids say, yo, that's tough. Or now, what's up, slime? Was she a baddie? So there's like all these words that I pay
Tough
attention
is
to. So I'm very aware if I use a word that I don't normally use. Like I'm very deliberate. Like if I tell a kid, like, yo, you cap. Like I'm not just like, subconsciously saying, the kids are influencing me. I say cap now. Like I say it on purpose because I know that's what they will resonate with. And I also don't use it a lot because I'm not trying to like be fake. Even like, oh, you cap, son. Like sometimes it will come out as, oh, you cap. And I was like, all right, I actually meant that. And I actually knew what that meant to you. But I'm not just going around saying, yo, that's cap. I'm not just saying that on a daily. So I guess because I've always been aware of myself.
I actually knew what it meant.
What?
I like you said, I actually knew what it meant.
But since I'm aware of myself, I just don't. I never understood this accent idea. Like if I started speaking as a certain person, like I would know. I'd be like, yo, I'm speaking like a British person now. Like, or maybe there's little, I don't know, maybe there's little minute inflections or something you might not know you were doing, and you just like picked it up. But again, I feel like I would know if I went like can't or can't. Oh, I can't do that, or I can't do that. Like I just feel like it's, I guess because I write poetry so much and I rap so much and I listen to inflections and I pay attention to the nuance of tones of notes. I'm just like, I can't see myself not. No, I can't see myself saying sorry and not being and not being like, oh, I used to say sorry. Now I'm saying sorry. So
I'm so sorry.
So that's interesting about the accents. I don't know. A lot of that stuff about accents to me though is very I don't know. As you know, I told you, like when people start talking about accents, I'm like, oh, what do you oh man, you're from the South. I'm like, okay, great. Next topic. like I really don't care. But to the public speaking myth. What did you say? Public speaking,
too much, probably.
Oh,
I was probably saying too much.
Nah, I was trying to tap in on something you were talking about. We were talking about strengths, weaknesses. What was the first thing you said about the public speaking? What was like the very first part?
The first thing I was talking about in public speaking earlier was just about how there's extroverts that are lined up to do it, and the introverts are the ones that usually get chosen. Was on the set, right?
But but like the last little.
Oh well, I think knowing yourself, I think knowing where you fit in and knowing like what percentage of the scale that you are, like if you're gonna be speaking. If I use the example of a broadcaster, right? And what's up, Desta Joy Richardson? I'm just reading the comments too here. I used to slang to shock and embarrass my kids. Yeah, right. I mean, here, let me just segue into this for a second to that comment by Desta Joy. I used to slang to shock and embarrass my kids. That thing is funny because at some point, just like language, just like what we're talking about, you make the conversion to Bernard's point where it is automatic. Like I say chill, cool, fresh, dope automatically. There's no thought. Those are part of my lexicon, right? Whereas, yeah, I'm with you with cap. Like, I catch myself every now and then saying cap, but I'm thinking very clearly about who the audience is because I'm super aware that not everyone knows what that is, right? And I would actually argue, to your point about, you know, hearing cap. Yeah, those of us who are educators and work around teens and stuff like that, like, I'm constantly around all the slang on the education world, but I'm also around my actual peer group is a very slang heavy peer group on one level, and on another level it's totally not. You know, it's very hudagogy. You know, academic words, andragogy, you know,
Did
like
you
those
say
kind of words.
cool? Did you say cool to goji?
No, hudagogy.
Oh,
And
I thought you came up with that. There, you can have that word.
they might
Cool,
as well.
cool
Yeah,
to goji.
they might as well have come up with just invented the words. But it's like when you're in two different, like, I would think, put it this way, I would say, especially when I lived in Massachusetts, my real life peer group spoke more slang than any students in my school ever did. So I knew the slang that students were going to say before they said it. And then sometimes I would talk about it in the class. Like, in 2 months, you're all going to say X. And remember today that we talked about it. And think about, we talk about these very issues. Say, when do you think it's going to be that you convert over? Like, how many times do you need to hear it? Is there a certain person you're looking for to say a word that you can't wait to say it so that you show that you're down and cool? Or is it something that you just hear by volume? I would make the argument, for me, there is a volume threshold when you hear something enough that it absolutely becomes necessary for you to use, because you know it's the word that's all around and it pinpoints the meaning. You know, like when you hear a track and it's good doesn't even come to mind. Great doesn't come to mind. Regular words don't come to mind because I don't hear them in that context. You don't go, oh, that's a good beat. It's clearly that's a dope beat. No, that's whatever the word is, it's not good and it's not great. But if you watch like The Bachelor or something, they say great and amazing like every other word. You know, I mean, I can't even listen to it. Oh, this is great. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, you know what's amazing? And it's like they even make fun of themselves. So certain words have life, you know, where they are. And I think as introverts, we do think about these things. I do think we're sitting around thinking about this stuff because it's this catch-22 dichotomy where it's like, okay, we're hyper aware of it because we sit around thinking these topics. And then I will actually use them and try to bring them even back into the classroom to talk about it and say, so what does that mean about the nature of us? Like, now that you're aware, so what? And I always think that I say to people, you know, like, I have these arguments about elitism, which I've seen pop up here on Clubhouse. Like, I make no qualms about it. I'm an elitist. Like, I'm okay with it. I don't mean it in the most negative connotation, but it's like I'm trying to be elite in most of the endeavors that I do. I don't want to be average. You know what I'm saying? Show me the path to being elite, to being excellent in whatever it is that I do. And I'm going to try to do it if it doesn't zap me of my ability to do something else. So if I can be an elite rapper, I want to be an elite rapper because my life is invested in it. If I can be an elite educator, I want to be an elite educator. And if that means it's going to bring me more money, more reward in my career, and then I have a higher education level, because you have to have a higher education level usually to be in education, right? And you're going to dub that as, oh, you're an elitist because you make money and because you're educated about something. Call me an elitist then all day because I'm cool with that title. What's the opposite of elitist? I'm a non-striver. What is it?
Delitist.
Yeah, right. Like, are you a non-elitist? Like, who would say it? Like, yeah, but I get it because the word has been taken over. And it's like, you think there's something bad about that, right? Like, there's bad about trying to be like, how did elite become a bad word? You know, I get it when we're talking about subjugating somebody else and trying to make haves and have-nots, but that's not what that word is even meaning to be. I say all this stuff because it's like, once you become aware and then you strive for better, you're striving for self-excellence, self-betterment, elitism, if you will. I think that's the nature of what it is that we're doing. I become aware through thinking, then some communication, some reading, some creative arts blending in and trying to get in where I fit and figure out what I'm about. And then once I'm sure about something, which is rare, but once I'm sure about it, now I can't wait to communicate to others about it. Now I'm tapping into the extrovert. Oh yeah, I know how extroverts talk. And that's how I'm going to talk when I'm on the stage. Right. I'm going to be like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, I'm going to be like, yo, here is the voice of someone who's sure and confident. and this is what it looks like. And you know what I mean? And it's like, that's what we're tapping into, because my nature is not to get up on a stage and go, yo, but it is to do that, to communicate the point that I really want you to listen to, you know? So now it's partly, again, just like language, it's become part of the lexicon. It's become part of who I am. So part of me is a very confident person, even though I did not start out that way, you know?
Well, okay, I remember what you were saying. You were talking about your true center.
Oh.
So I think true center can eliminate the need. I think you were talking about, you know, how do you know when you're speaking from your true center, or what's your true center? And I think speaking from that true center is what eradicates nerves, and what also eradicates this, like, how am I gonna like talk for a certain amount of time? Like, how am I gonna fill up the time? Because I always find, that's why I tell everybody in my class, like everybody who I meet is like, okay, the stuff that we talk about is so obvious to us, but it's like insights for other people. When people talk to me, it's like, you know, what should I write my paper about? I'm like, well, what do you like? Or like, what should I make my project about? I'm like, what do you like? Like, I literally don't even know why you would go 10 steps out of that question. Because you're asking me, how do I fill up a page? I'm like, fill up a page with something that you know a lot about. So why would you pick something you don't know about and also that you're not excited about? That's like the worst combination. I don't know anything about this and it's boring. So you want to be on stage for 10 minutes talking about something you don't know about,
right?
And it's boring, but you think other people will like it. No. I'm like, do the opposite of that. Pick something that you're extremely passionate about and that you know a lot. It's probably one and the same. If you're passionate about it, you probably know a lot about it. Like, there's some people, if you said, hey, talk about baseball, they could get on stage and talk about baseball for 20 minutes. They probably don't think they can off front. They're like, oh, I couldn't do that. It's like, no, you just haven't been kind of coached into the right context and given a certain structure to say, okay, yeah, I don't want you to just rattle off stats, but I want you to kind of create a narrative, a beginning, a middle, and end. Like if I said, tell me about your favorite baseball team, you could probably string together a story about when you were little and your dad took you to baseball, and then, you know, what baseball has taught you about discipline. So that's the thing I'm always encouraging people to do when I talk about public speaking. I'm saying, look, I'm not saying that you go to TEDx and you talk about baseball because people are like, okay, great. Why is that an idea worth spreading? What I'm saying is take your passion and use that lens to push some other idea, or take that lens to frame your idea or your story or your argument, because you're going to be able to connect with that idea more easily. And therefore, you're going to be able to translate the idea you want people to hear. So I try to get people to do this, and I can see they struggle with the free association. Like, okay, you want to talk about climate change, connect that with baseball. People's minds are like, well, I don't know what the one has to do with the other. It's like, well, that's why you need kind of like freestyle hip hop, you know, associative thinking. You need to practice that kind of stuff all the time, so you can be like, okay, what is the ball in the sun? Okay, maybe I could do something with, you know, sphere and sphere. Okay, well, you play, like you're saying, oh, the ball got lost in the sun. Then you see, like, just that even starts like, oh, what happens if we get lost in the sun? What if the earth, what if the earth was like a ball and it's going towards the sun? Now, me and you could do that really quickly because we've just practiced. But that skill is available to everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not just like you always talk about, like, you think the creativity is not magical. I definitely think there is a magical part to creativity, but also there is the hard work part. Coming up with metaphors is hard work, and you have to put into practice. Yeah. And if you do it long enough, you can figure out how to do it.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of a purist in that magic word, where it's like the only thing magical to me is like creation. You know, like it's like, so naturally creativity fits in that bulb. But yeah, everything's a process. You know, like you even hinted at it when you were just saying that there's a beginning, a middle, and end. There's a process to speaking effectively about anything. TED, the magic sauce, if you will, for TED Talks is make it about the audience and not about you. And that's very interesting, because you're talking about something that's very fundamentally you based. And then you're doing what good MCs do, is trying to find that connective tissue to something else, right? So if we wanted to speak about whatever story we have personally that we've done, The art is always connecting it back to your audience. That's true every time you rap. It's true every time you give a speech. It's true every time you motivate other people, even as in some kind of leadership capacity. It's tapping into other people's common understandings, emotions, and belief systems to have them buy into the thing that you're saying that isn't actually part of that, but has connective tissue to it. You know, like if I want you to go, you know, walk over glass with me, you know, and I'm going to try to get you to, first of all, I'm never walking over glass. It's a poor example, right? I'm just not doing it, right? But it's like, you're going to have to be a really good salesman to tell me why I need to walk over glass, you know, but you see people are effective in getting people to do stuff like this all the time. So there's some belief system, there's something about it that, like, this is my crazy thing and I'm going to get others to buy into it. Well, it's not, you can't physically just talk about the glass. There's got to be something about that process that seems like self non-betterment, but something it's led you to that sort of higher path. And every time we get on a TED stage and every time we do any speech in general, if we go up there and make the mistake of thinking just my cool story is going to win them over, I know it's not, because it's like, I already know that my story doesn't even resonate with me that much. Like if I hear a story like when I think about like what my story is, right? It's like, that's not going to get me out of bed. Like, I'm just like, okay, some dude figured out a way to put a couple things together that are not commonly put together and has done pretty well on both sides of the house. Okay, cool. That's my general belief system. So just hearing someone talk about it, it's like, maybe it's reinforcing, it's cool, but I'm not coming to pay money to hear someone talk about it. I already inherently, I've internalized that belief. I've internalized that we can take two disparate things and put them together and there's cool synergy there. I like it, but I'm not leaving. I'd rather find out the why of something. Tell me the why of why the earth goes around the sun. You got me. If you can explain that cogently to me, and you can say, yo, here's gravity. Why is gravity gravity? I'm coming for that, because we always talk about this. We want to know the why things work, like the whys and the hows. The what doesn't really interest me that much. So if you're just going to stand up there and give me the what, oh, this is what I do. Big deal. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you do. I want to know why you do it, you know, and how you're excellent at it or whatever. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? And then bring in some other part, some factual information too about something else. And now you've got me if you connect those tissues.
Man, okay, a bunch of things I'm gonna touch on. One, this is what I still haven't done it, but the funny thing is when I did my TEDx talk, I had initially, what happened? I think I applied to be like a coach. I forgot how the timing worked out. I think maybe I had asked someone ahead of times, like, hey, you know, I would like to coach speakers when this TEDx thing happens. And then I ended up winning the open mic. And the woman who coached me, she never got back to me. And she was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't get back to you because you won and you wouldn't be able to do both. And I was like, sure, I could have done. I'm still thinking, sure, I got to coach somebody and done my own, or coach somebody else. But I just watch people get on stage.
Player coach
and I get
is
so
the thing.
frustrated because I'm just like you're just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like you're either all over the place or you have no aim to start. And so that's why I go back to my original thing. I think the introvert is inherently built to public speak, because the introvert is, when sitting in meetings that we've discussed, are sitting there like, okay, no, that's not correctly framed. That's not organized. Okay, you just completely put two things together that don't make sense. And the whole time you're just like critiquing the meeting and you're like, this could be done way better.
Yeah.
So I think if the introvert can figure out how to translate this to this, it's over. Like it's just over. Because when you hear introverts speak, you're like, yo, this dude is making so much sense right now. How come I never thought about this? It's like, because clearly, just what I said, you never thought. You literally never thought. So when I was at my open mic, I swear there was someone who got on stage and was like, I mean, she was just like, I can't be elected president because, you know, in America, I'm a black female. And like that was like the end of her intro sentence. And I was like, okay, so you're gonna like add on like, and this is, you know, why we should change that, or like this is how we're gonna. I mean, I think it was almost like I just need to express this. So it was almost like she was like, I have this frustration and I need to say this out loud. But I was like, that's not a hook, or that's not compelling to your audience
Right.
to say,
Doesn't know
okay,
why.
great. Like why? But like, okay, so how do we fix this? Or what do we need to do? Or why is that a problem? So it's almost like she presented the issue, but it's like, but what is your solution? Or if not solution, like what is your like approach? Like something, you need something else other than just like, here it is. So that's one thing. So the other thing I was thinking that like, so I did we had this festival in town. It's like entrepreneurship, innovation. So I did this thing called Pitchcraft. So it was like combining the idea of
Of course
pitch
you did.
and an
Of
art
course it had a
craft.
cool name like Pitchcraft too. It had to be a play on like. Of course you did. And of course it had to have a cool name. Of course that happens to sound like witchcraft.
So I had myself, poet, had my friend who's an actress, and had a comedian, and then we had a regular kind of entrepreneur. So it started off with the regular entrepreneur. He talked about pitching, just like, you know, if you're going to have a slide deck, this is how many slides. He was saying, look, you guys do these pitch competitions at these festivals. He's like, but this doesn't usually happen like at a venture capitalist. He's like, so he was giving them the straight like 1, 2, 3 thing. So then the comedian, the actress, and myself, we all combined like, okay, when you get on stage, this is how I approach the pitch. You know, as an actor, this is what I think about. So my friend was talking about like when you go into the room, like, are you taking inventory of the space? Where are people sitting? Like, can you go into the room before you pitch? What are you going to wear? She was saying like, you know, as an actor with wardrobe, I'm thinking about character. Am I objective when I go into the room? Comedian was talking about, you know, something, I think this related to something you said earlier. It's like when you're telling jokes with your friends, he was like, well, you guys are all of the same sense of humor. You hang out a lot. So it's kind of inside and you don't have to really work hard. He said, well, when you go to an audience, you got to get them on the same page. He's like, you got to give them like, okay, guys, this is where we're going. Are you with me? Okay, now we can laugh because we all agree on the premise.
Right.
And me, what I was saying, what I was going to connect to earlier, I presented this. So I performed this poem I did. And then I broke down why I said certain lines. And I said, there is word play. I said I had a lot of word play in the performance I just did, but I had a lot of word serious or word meaning. Because I was like, if I just got up here and did a poem, you'd be like, cool, that was entertaining. But if I just got up here and said, go after your dreams, be a great speaker, you'd be like, this is so boring. And I was like, that's why you have to bring these right and left, introvert and extrovert together, because if you lose one of them, something's going to get lost. If you're entertaining, but you don't say anything, people will enjoy your performance the day of, but they will leave the conference and say, well, okay, well, now what? Like, that was cool, but what am I supposed to do? But if you just present information, you're going to make them so bored that they hardly get your information. So I think if the introvert can, like I said, get this and this in line, it's over.
Yeah, it's the part that I'd say the piece that jumps out for me thinking about this, or what it makes me think of, is that content versus entertainment value. I think of AZ, whom I love, compared to Nas, right? And I would argue that AZ is arguably a better rapper, where Nas is content. There's more content. It's not, Nas isn't just flowing. He will substitute flow or sacrifice flow, I should say, for content, for word choices that are more thought provoking. Whereas AZ just wants to sound dope. You know, like AZ is talking about the same thing always. He's talking about sneakers, money, fashion, pursuing that life. Always. Nas, not always. Nas is going to give you a lot of different like looks or whatever. And we think of rap groups that do this. When you think of like, who is it? I'm just asking you, who is a rap group or rap performer who gives you content and value? Who comes to mind?
Well, you said content and value, or you mean like entertainment?
Yeah. Meaning entertainment and like high aesthetic entertainment value and high content at the same time.
I mean, I guess the kind of cliche is probably people are going to say Jay-Z. It's probably going to be one of them.
I don't think of him as particularly high content value. Oops.
You're back in.
I don't think of him as particularly high content value all the time. I think occasionally, but he's like a 80, 90, 95 score in terms of ability and entertainment value, but it's like, content, I'd put him at like 15, 20. If 50's the middle, well, not do the middle. That's square. I was going to say, sliding on the pendulum where he is, I'd say it's like 90-10. No, 85-15 for Jay-Z on the entertainment value side and skill. I'm putting entertainment and skill in the same bucket.
So you want somebody who has high, like, meaningful content, and that they are aesthetically, artistically capture your attention, like, most of the time.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody I'm trying who is I have to think about that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting to. Like, I mean, I think we all have to think about that, and when I'm sure people listening could come up with like 2 to 3 people. I think of groups like The Roots and Black Thought come to mind. Black Thought definitely comes to mind. Common comes to mind. But it tends to be these people who've gained wisdom. When you listen to Common from Can I Borrow a Dollar Common days, it's not the same Common. I mean, dude is rhyming a little bit like Das Effects and like, just trying to be like, doing typical things that any 19, 20-year-old would be rapping about. And now he raps like a sage. You know what I'm saying? He's like, his bars are all filled. I mean, look at the, he's doing like Image Award worthy kind of stuff all the time, and the stuff he does with John Legend. I mean, I love listening to that when he does it, it's like this spiritual, thoughtful, artistic, powerful, social commentary. And even when I was doing this little tribute thing for Talib Kweli, he's another one, right? And literally Jay-Z says that lyric, truth be told, skill sold, probably be lyrically Talib Kweli, right? So even he's telling you that he doesn't think he's there where he should be in terms of content. He's going out of his way to even though, like you're correctly saying, this is a smart dude who could be talking about this all the time, but he rarely does. He'll give you those little kind of lines here and there. And funny, that line itself is a deep, deep social commentary line right there. But it's like 10, 15% of the time do you get that. But where are the artists who are comfortable doing it? I just say this just as more evidence even that it's a rare thing. And it usually comes by an acquisition of life and world experience. And it's like, I think about that with introverts too. Like introverts, once they figure out their stride and they know what it is about the extroverted side of the house that they want to borrow from, I think they can powerfully incorporate it. But you leave an introvert to just be an introvert in the corner, I don't think they're going to get there. That's why they need Bernard and Pro. But you leave them in the corner, they're just going to be, they're going to be those scientists I'm talking about. Those scientists are introverts too. Those scientists who talk monotone, who do, looking down all the time, not looking people in the eye, not building any kind of a bond because they generally don't care to, because they're more about they're like, factually, this is what I want to talk about. This is what the evidence says. They're not interested in the decorating it up. And I feel that all the time, but I'll tell you this, I can dress better than most men because I care to, like if I want to dress well,
right, I
could dress extremely well. The amount of time that I want to dress well is probably not as high as it's once been. But it's because of an awareness, like, oh, I see what looks good from this palette over here to my mature eye now. It doesn't have to be blue and blue. It can be, like there's a lot more. And when you're younger, you're just like, whatever, I'm going to throw. And truth be told, most of the time I'm like, whatever too. If I'm sitting in my house or I'm going out or if I'm hanging out with family, I don't care. But if I know I have to make a statement with the clothes that I'm wearing, I know how to do it. I'll tell my male friends who are going to weddings and job interviews, I'll be like, nah, bro, you look like someone who doesn't know how to dress. Well, let me just help you out a little bit, not because that's high value for me. That's not a high value thing. It's because I'm aware of its place in society and what it can do for you when you do it well,
right.
And it's this similar kind of thing. It's like with the music, it's like you have to be aware of what it is that you don't know and go, when I started out, I was all about the punchline and the content. I wasn't really about the flow. Even though I could do the rap fast stuff or whatever, that was it. It was one speed. It was like, I can rap fast, I can do a punchline, or I can, I don't know, put into content without, and I would sacrifice quality penmanship for the idea. I mean, one of my very first rhymes, I was talking about desegregation of like South Africa and talking about Mandela, but the rhymes are awful. It's great content. It's like, oh, that's a noble pursuit, but the rhymes are like, it was just terrible. It was like book report, and there's that book report style of rap and that monotone kind of, like I say it all the time in these interviews when they say, oh yeah, you socially conscious and all this kind of stuff and like blah blah blah. I'll say, don't get it twisted. Most socially conscious rappers have to be, because they don't have the aesthetic to do what it is. Like there are a lot of whack socially conscious rappers. There's so
Right.
what, you're socially conscious. If you're whack, I don't want to listen to you, and it's not going to do any good. It's like it's got to be
Right.
both. And it's like there are a few. To me, Lauryn Hill was that. Black Thought is that, but it's rare, and it's like because it takes so much time to get to that point. And are you still going to be doing a business that largely isn't profitable unless you go do the quick high sugar, candy pop kind of stuff that grabs you the big eyes and listeners? So it's this reinforcement to be the extrovert, really.
Well, the other thought that came to my mind, I'm guessing you'll probably have the same reaction to Jay-Z, because he's had an evolution too, like a Dave Chappelle, like high content, but
Right.
like
Definitely.
funny. But I think to that point too, though, for the person who is already very introspective and introvertedness, there is an entertainment value of being meaningful and thoughtful. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't like, oh, we have to think, turn this off. But for me, like I said, when I was growing up, I always enjoyed the rigorousness of hard work, or like a puzzle or riddle, or like to me, the thoughtfulness of a Dave Chappelle, where I have to listen to the joke and I'm like, oh, like where I have to fill in my own, fill in the blanks. Like to me, that is entertaining because I get to participate with my mind.
Right.
Whereas maybe for the extroverted person, they're just like, no, just hand it to me. It's like I've never been like that. I'm like, I don't want you to give me the answer. Like I want to find the answer. I want you to like put this here, and I want to like enter in the middle and like connect the dots. So I think for the introvert particularly, that's probably more difficult to think about this sort of extroverted component of like, okay, how's the album cover gonna look, or like how is the like presentation slides themselves gonna look? They're probably, and I think that's why you get into the scientific monotone, and we've talked about this in the Math Matters on Clubhouse. Like people who teach math, their point of view is like, this is math. Like I don't have to be interesting. It's math. You have to learn it. Like same thing with history. People present history like you're gonna refute history.
Right.
You can't. So I don't need to spice it up.
Right.
Like I don't need to make it interesting. It is what it is, and you just need to learn it. So there's that component too, where I think if you're so introverted that you think the ideas themselves are interesting, maybe they are to you. Like you and I are the kind of people like we could just think about ideas all day and like, oh, that's cool. But other people, like they need a rapper, not a R-A-P-P-E-R, but a W-R-A-P. They need like a coat. They need that's why people love like packaging, and that's why everybody does these unboxings. They're like, ooh, look at the box, and ooh, look at the ooh.
How are unboxings a thing?
How
are unboxings even a thing? Like my son will watch those too, like the unboxing of a new game or something. There's like 3 million people watching the unboxing, that kind of unboxing.
But
it's a different world.
To the point, like even packaging to people matters now. Like when something comes in a sleek package or just something about like, ooh, it's a gift, it's inviting. Like, well, I think that's what it is. Like when something is wrapped, I actually recorded something about this. Like if I handed you a gift on your birthday, even if it was your favorite gift, if I just didn't put any effort into wrapping, you'd be like, yo, like, okay, thanks, Bernard, cool. It doesn't invite you to want to open it. And even though you're appreciative, you're like, oh, dog, you could have put like 10% thought into wrapping. Like you went and bought this nice thing for me. You didn't even wrap it or get it professionally wrapped. So there's something about the wrapper that matters because it is, like you're saying, it is a thing. There is an aesthetic. There is a visual. So it does matter to a certain degree. Now that aesthetic can be different though. Cause like for me, like I'm not putting a lot of effort into like clothing. I'm like, I just don't care. I'm like, but I will put a lot of effort into how I present a talk. And like, by the time I'm start talking, you're like, I don't care how this dude look. Cause like, wow, like this is incredible. I'm like, yeah, exactly. But the other thing I was going to say, to connect it back to like your question about the entertainment and the, as I like to say, entertaining and enlightening. That's always my goal. Entertaining and enlightening. I had a conversation with a friend who's also a hip hop artist and educator, and we got into some discussion about like the necessity for like a group, for instance, like a Wu-Tang, to have like a Jizza and a RZA, but then like a ODB. Like you got to have this introspective, like Jizza's like chess, the mathematical acrobaticals, undertaking a sabbatical, like he's doing all this stuff, connecting math with chess and the universe and the stars, and RZA's talking about you know, they got a whole mastermind. And then ODB just like, shimmy, I'm up in the I'm in the Brooklyns. Like he's like, yo, what is it? How do these two work? But he was making a point of like you needed both. You needed that little wild card to balance out like the ultra.
You needed Flavor Flav with Chuck D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the example I brought up. Flavor Flav with Chuck D. So I'm sure if you saw every kind of group, there's always like, or like in comedy, they talk about there's like the straight man, and then there's like the person who can go off and do the comedy. Because if both people are too funny, like it sounds like a oxymoron. Like how can you be too funny? But if everybody's trying to be funny, it just doesn't work. You need somebody to be the static, uncomfortable person, and the other person to be pushing their buttons, and that's what makes it funny. Because if it was just two funny people, it's just like, okay, you both are competing. So I take that to say there's that hip hop group dynamic. It's like as a person who's going to do public speaking, you need to think in those terms. Like, yo, I got this ultra serious topic or this ultra serious thing I need to talk about. Like, what's my ODB? Like, I got my Jizza. What's my ODB? Is it the presentation?
Yeah.
Is it like, do I need to tell a story at the beginning? Do I need a joke in there? Like, do I need some kind of, I don't know. I always say there's like a hook. Like you always got to start first with something. Like I think the most important moment to public speaking is your first thing on stage. Whether it's how you address the audience, whether it's, I mean, even when I did my TEDx, they were like, hey guys, when you step out there, don't start right away. Like just step on stage and give it a pause. And I took that into account. I said, yo, that's okay. I'm gonna take that. I'm not just gonna rush past it. I went out there, I planted my feet, and I waited a second, and then I went into it. So like, what can you do in a presentation to create that extrovertedness? Not because it's better than introvertedness, but you are doing a somewhat inherently extroverted activity by speaking. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're speaking to people, there just is truth to the fact that they need a certain kind of energy to stay engaged. And if you're going to transmit that information, you got to first connect with that energy first.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think and shout out to Tree, and sorry to hear about your daughter. Hope she's feeling well soon. I think the interesting part about like how you and I sort of talking about the dress piece, like, you know, you hear that expression, looking good, feeling good, or is it feeling good, looking good, right? That idea is the way that you're dressed. Is it about you or is it about your audience? And I do think it's both, you know, and I think that's why it's an interesting question. I think there are certain times when a person comes out dressed a certain way that it perfectly matches your expectation, and that's good. And then there's times that it perfectly matches the expectation and it's bad. So that shock to the system of where it says, it depends what the topic is about. Like if you're coming out to be a renowned expert on something, there's something we expect our experts to look like in their chosen field. And freaking that at a point where you still feel really good about your world. Like you might say, okay, sweatsuits to me, my whole life, like we talk about all the time, like my sweatsuit game is on and popping right now. It still is, right? Like I actually did something I've never done before. I ordered away for 2 sweatsuits. You know, it was like I ordered online for sweatsuits. One of them, I love it. I can't wear it enough. And it's because it's so in my essence of like it's like my chi, you know, it's like that is me, right? So when I'm wearing that, that's about me. I'm like, yo, that perfectly defines my internal presence, you know? And it's like, there are times where it's to your point of that energy and that first word or whatever, that whole picture needs to be painted right in certain scenarios. And then in other times is exactly what you also talked about that I caught you saying, people will not notice the clothes you're wearing. I use that exact line all the time. I say, you can come here in flip-flops and a t-shirt and shorts. I said that to my students when we're talking about, as I've taught many times, the externship classes, whatever. I said, you can wear shorts and sneakers to certain jobs after a while. Once they know what you do, they know how you put it down. People stop caring when they know you are that master craftsman of whatever it is you do. They don't care. Hey, whatever it takes for you to work. Just look at right now, people working from home. Hey, you presume your results are coming. Hey, you can work from home, right? People like, yo, dude was working from home during COVID, before COVID, same results. Guess what? You can work from home more often, right? And so until you have that person won over, though, there's that expectation part, and it can help smooth it for you in certain cases, and it can help smooth it for yourself too. So I would argue that there is a presentation value that also is on the aesthetic side, because quite honestly, that's what we're judging a lot of times when we see someone. You can't wait to see what someone's going to look like even when you hear their name sometimes. It's like we do it on Clubhouse. So you see a name and they're like, let me take a look at what this person really looks like. What are they actually talking about? Sometimes it's vice versa. You get the picture and you're like, well, let me see. Do they have any accolades in here? And now you're like, whoa, they look the part and they're backed up by it. Winner, ding, ding, ding.
Right.
It's like there's a balance. My thing is, again, like what I was saying with the extrovert introvert scale, you just have to know where you fit, and it has to work for you and be aware of it. Like I'm aware right now that I'm wearing a blue t-shirt. It's so are you, right? Mine says Johnny Cupcakes, which is some fancy brand of t-shirt. But when you read down lower, it's UMass Lowell. And this was my swag for actually speaking at their school. And these never wrinkle, by the way. You can wear them a million times. They never wrinkle. They're the coolest shirt I've ever owned, right? I actually got 2 of them. They had another one in the bag. I was like, can I get that one too? Like, yeah, my man got one. He was doing my hype man stuff. So to me, the shirt goes deep. So I can just be wearing the chill shirt, and it can actually be a conversation starter.
Right.
I talk about, I got the video. You want to see the video of when I rock the show, blah, 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 right? Like, that can take you in a lot of different directions. So sometimes we have those items. Sometimes it's a chain or whatever it is, and it has a whole story to it. And again, it goes back to, how does that story relate to your audience? Not just you. Of course, it's going to relate to you. We're going to here's my story about my shirt at the time that I was speaking. But how is that important to the thing? For me, it's like, yo, did you know this came from student activity fees? Did you know you pay a student activity fee? Like, you probably pay $50 a year for your student activity fee. And when you multiply that times the 20,000 students that go there, that's a lot of money. And did you know if you join a club, you can direct that student activity fee to bring in someone like Bernard and Pro to come talk about IntroVerse? Like, you can do that, right? And it's like, oh, now it's this whole other dimension to, where did they get the swag for this non-wrinkable, expensive brand name shirt to just give away? Well, here's why. They use student activity fee. You know what I'm saying? It spawns off in these whole conversations where I love everything I have to be like that. I want to know, again, it's like, I want to know the why. Like, I got this right here. Like, this right here is a nice little leather thing. It looks like some kind of a document holder. I got documents in it. Like, it was a birthday gift, right? Like, I can tell you about where it came from. I didn't ask for it. It was a birthday gift, right? And I'm like, it's made out of mole skin. I didn't know anything about mole skin. First of all, I ain't trying to kill moles, but I'm trying to figure out what is mole skin. You know what I mean? Like, why is that so nice? And it's, you think about it, and I'm looking in my other drawer, right? I got one of my favorite books I'm always talking about. This is amazing too. Bill Bryson. Did I show this to you before?
What's the title of it?
A Short History of Nearly Everything.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, bro. A student gave it to me, and like, I would say this one for you, bro. You would love this book as well. Student gave this to me. They were talking about like, like, a lot of stuff about a lot of things, right? And I'll be like, nah, I just, read whatever. They're like, have you read The Short History of Nearly Everything? I was like, no, I love that. I know about that though. And they're like, they brought it in and gave it to me on the last day of class, right? So the book has a story. It's not just a book I read. It reminds me of who the student was, the math class I was teaching, you know what I'm saying? And I like those things. So when I even have art in my house, the art always has to have a reason. I don't just have art in my house for no reason. I would never just go, oh, I like that picture. Very rarely do I go, oh, I like that picture. I got to know who the author was. I got to know what it means. How does it mesh into your world? And that's what I'm saying about how we dress. How does it make you feel good? And is it something that you can talk to with other people that they'll relate and go, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. You can take it to that level.
Well, there's a lot we could get into with that, but I don't. That could be a
But
whole
it's
nother
4
episode,
o'clock.
huh?
But it's 4 o'clock.
Well, we got to get we spent 15 of those minutes trying to get to the start.
True.
Um,
True.
but like yeah, like there's a whole other issues I don't want to get into right now, but like there are certain cultural things with dress as well. Like, you know, if someone's judging me on how I dress, I'm like, okay, you need to check your you need to adopt some more introverted attitudes and judge by the content of the character, not by the color of my clothes. There's so much you can get into that, so I don't want to gloss over that. Like, hey, just you know, think about what you're wearing. It's like, yeah, some people, especially like if you get into like gender stuff, I'm sure some women are like, yeah, I always got to think about what I'm wearing. So there's all these other issues that are swimming around with that people have to take into account. So it's not. I know there's a lot more you can get it, but just on the topic, so I did these things called standardized patient, where I would go in and do role playing with medical students. And so you go in to the college and they'll have a student and they'll do like a role play with you, and you've memorized certain lines of like, oh yeah, I've been coughing for a week and blah blah blah. So they ask you questions and they're trying to get to the bottom of the case. And so you stay in character. And then afterwards, the whatever resident person says, hey, can you give some feedback to my student? And so there's one guy, I was playing patient, he was the doctor. I mean, he was just like lean back in his chair, and the whole time I was just like, yo, you look a little too comfortable. Like, you're supposed to be like engaged in my like medical stuff right now. So my critique was like, yo, you seemed a little too laid back. And so the lady, she says, oh yes, even our body language can communicate,
right,
you know, how we're seem to be engaged. Now, personally, I usually don't think about that stuff, but I had to admit in that instance, I was like, man, I feel like you aren't really in. I feel like this is just like a vacation for you. And I was like, if you're a doctor, I need to see some arched back. I need to see some leaning forward. Like, I need you to be eye to eye.
Eyebrow.
Like anybody else, I probably don't care. I don't care if you're cashier or whatever. Yeah, you're just taking change. You know, you the greeter, fine, whatever. But if you're talking about my heart or my kidney or whatever, like, yeah, I need you to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, blah blah blah. So it does matter on some level. It also matters like what field you're in.
Right.
So taking that point though, how do you?
I feel bad for all the greeters out there, by the way. If anyone is a greeter, that is the worst introvert job of all time. If you're a greeter and you're an introvert, that is purgatory.
Yeah. I would have to be a whole character the whole time. I couldn't greet people like in a seriousness.
Literally a character like at Disney wearing wearing something.
Give me a mascot or something.
Then I could do it. Yep.
Spinning a sign. But so to connect to that story I told, like, what are you conveying to the audience when you're on stage? Right. And it's not necessarily about dress, but about how do I put it? I don't know. I would say I would call this like,
I think it's a message that you communicate.
Yeah. Or like you could call this internal dress. So when I did my TEDx talk, it was interesting. After I did my pitch, somebody said to me, wow, Bernard, like, you were so confident on stage. Like, you set us at ease that we didn't have to worry about you.
You went with fall sweater, right? Fall sweater was the look? Fall sweater.
Nope, I was wearing what I normally wear.
I thought you had fall sweater.
Oh, that was the actual TEDx. The TEDx open mic.
Oh, okay. Because the TEDx, you were I was like, oh, very autumn. I feel very autumn.
Very autumn.
I think it's reflected in the IntroVerse colors here.
That's like my one uniform. That I was like, oh, doing a presentation. All right, put on this stuff.
Fall sweater.
So at the open mic one,
what were you rocking?
You know, friend, she said when you got on stage, you were so confident. You were just like, boom, like you set us at ease that we didn't have to empathize with you and be nervous for you that you were going to mess up. Because, you know, when you're in the audience,
sneakers, though? T-shirt, jeans, and sneakers,
just like sweatpants. It's probably wear something like this.
Yeah.
So she was just like,
I got this look. That's the I got this look.
Yeah. So it was like I communicated by the strength of my confidence and what I was talking about and my belief in it.
Right.
That she instantly connected with that. It's like, okay, it's almost like this is what we talk about, the introverse. Like, I bring people into my world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the introvert does. Is like, where you're most confident, that's where you got to bring people into it. So instead of trying to go out and be an extroverted person, like, yeah, you have to externally speak, but you need to suck people into the introverse.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I have this, I want to do, like, if I could get somebody to animate it one day. To me, the thing about spoken word, I imagine, like, when a spoken word poet is speaking, it's like their whole world is exiting their mouth, and then it like wraps around the audience like a room.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're now in the room,
in the room,
and everyone's looking around like,
You're
yo, we're in your
together.
world. And then when they're done, it's like,
yes,
it's like sucked back in. It's like, that's what you got to do. You got to like bring people into your world, and they're on your playing field. Like,
Right.
you are using the
That's
mind, you're using thinking, you're using logic, you're taking them to a place where they've never been before. And that's a very internal thing. That's a very like thought heavy thing. And so something else I was going to say with that.
That's
about
a lot of power too that we have.
Well, well, here's the other thing. So when I did my TEDx talk, we did a little rehearsal, and I definitely knew, and I think I ended up doing like 3 slides. I wanted to do a bunch of slides because, you know, you just get into the PowerPoint. You're like, I got to have slides, and I want to have them, and I want to click. But part of me also knew, I was like, you know, you're going to be trying to talk and focus, and you're going to be trying to click. I was like, do you really need these slides? Because I spent time animating stuff. But when I really stripped it down, I was like, okay, I need for sure the definition. I need this one comparison thing. And then I need a couple other slides. And so one coach commented, she's like, Bernard, she's like, I think you could just get rid of all the slides because like you're so engaging, like people are just gonna be focused on you. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I was like, yeah, I hear the critique, but I know I need those slides because people need to see what I'm talking about in these couple instances. And even my coach was like, yeah, you were right. You did need those slides. I was like, yes, I know. But I bring that up to say, like, back to what I'm saying about the engaging part. If you are so engaging, everything else disappears.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the aesthetic becomes
I will often say, but I'm not. I need the thing behind me.
But if you're so interesting in your concept of that, the voice that, you know, the world needs to hear this. No one's ever heard this voice before, and they need to hear my voice. And you capture people, they forget about everything else. And so I think for the introvert, that's powerful to hear that your inner voice can be enough in and of itself. Yeah, again, there's going to be some technical things you have to do in terms of how to articulate, you know, learn how to time, learn how to pace. Yeah, that's just life though. Like, you have to learn how to speak and communicate, period. But I think if the introvert can start from the mindset of, oh, wait, I've been lied to. I'm actually the most powerful speaker in this room. Like, I'm probably the person who needs to be on the stage the most.
Right.
If you can start with that mentality, doing all the training stuff is just like anything else. It's like, okay, well, let me just go get trained.
Yep.
Let me just go do some classes. Let me, I don't know, go to counseling, get rid of some anxiety or whatever, breathing exercises, whatever you got to do. But the fundamental starting point, that confidence can come from, I know what I'm talking about. I think every introvert has that experience in a meeting. Like, you also know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Like, if anybody in this room knows what to talk about, I know what I'm talking about. And if you can get that confidence to come outward, like I said, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, I agree. I would wrap it up on my point to that. It's actually in pretty much agreement with yours. It's almost like that design thinking we're talking about again. And by the way, I'm no huge proponent of design thinking. I've just been saying it lately because sometimes thinking about the end is important. And I think the same thing. I'm not into these rooms on. I can't stand the treachery and debauchery that's in some of these rooms that are in Clubhouse. And it's like, you wake up at 8 in the morning and you look who's in there. The rooms that are hung over from the night before, where people are just trying to sell each other their squeegees or whatever it is that they're selling. It's just a lot of it, right? And it's like, one of these things is like, use design thinking to free your world and all that stuff. And I hate to sound like that, whatever, because again, I'm no salesman or whatever, and I don't want to be. However, the design thinking piece that does appeal to me is the mysticism, if you will, is like, envision what you want to have happen, right? It's just like when we do these exercises, say, what's the dream job? You have to do that at some point. You have to go, like, we've done that. I've been like, the dream job for me is to rap until I'm not able to rap anymore and to keep learning. my path makes a lot of sense. Right? It's like that's cool. Like I'm gonna do all those things. So when I was 27, it was real clear to me that I was like, man, I gotta finish this master's. I gotta get that doctorate. I gotta do the professor thing. I gotta continue. I gotta do X, Y, and Z on the academic side to catch up with the rap side and put them together. What can I see at the end of the day? Well, I can see, man, if I'm on a stage talking about some of the things that I know to be true, and I communicate them through hip hop and stuff man, I can see that lane. I can see that. Okay, now whenever I'm asked to do some kind of presentation or whatever, well, I'm immediately going to the modality of hip hop as sort of the crutch, because that's the thing that I speak through the best. But now I also have this other thing that's this academic skill set over here too, and I can bring those together and merge them so I see what my presentation is going to generally look like. Or else I don't do it. Like, you don't need me to be the person to speak about X, Y, and Z. I can do it, but I'm not going to raise my hand and volunteer because it's not in my areas and domains of my little fiefdoms. I don't have expertise on fixing the sink. I'm not the person you ever want to talk about fixing the sink, because guess what I'm going to say? You know what? You can look it up on YouTube. Like, that's the end. Like I can watch the directions. I can actually look at the sink parts and go, I think I can guess what's going on here. Now let me go look at the video that tells it. Whatever your speech is, whatever your topic is that you have to give, sometimes it's you have to give, and other times it's that you want to give. The real trick is eliminating the ones that you don't have to give,
right,
and putting your passion into those things that you do like is much easier, much more fulfilling, and the crowd understands that. Don't talk about stuff that you don't need to speak about. And I think introverts don't necessarily volunteer to do those kind of things anyways. But when you're put into it, it's
right.
what you said earlier. Oh, now I get to set the scenery? Okay, everybody. Purple lavender marshmallows hollowed out. We're standing inside. I like doing that. Like, I just changed the landscape. I put you in my world, like you were talking about earlier. You had to envision that. You had to see what that was. And now you're like, well, what's he going to do with that? Right? Now you're playing on my court now. And so introverts need to find their purple lavender hollowed out marshmallows. Wow, I can't remember. I remember that. I got that one twice in a row. You have to find that world that you want to bring them into and say, what's the end game that you can picture? And now it's just a matter of connecting the dots. And any of us can connect the dots with a little practice, a little rehearsal, and a little bit of confidence that we can get there. And then when you do, wrap it in a bow and think about what presentation physically on this stage, whether it's a slide with just light behind me, a cool picture. Is it you need a bunch of words? I would advocate like you, Bernard. I don't need much up there. I might need just a little bit to enhance what I'm doing, right? And maybe some of that enhancement is what you're physically wearing. It might be what the room looks like, right? The lighting matters. That's why people spend thousands and thousands of dollars doing it. I went to see Prince perform, Sade perform, John Legend perform. You watch what they're doing these days. It's a visual fiesta of what's going on behind them. And there's a reason. And it corresponds in timing with what they're doing up there. So it certainly plays a role. And just to quickly tie it up to your thing too. And then there's those times where you want to exude confidence, and you can do that by not giving a bleep because you know what you're selling is that on point. We're saying when it's not that on point yet, all those other things can help get you to the promised land, But once you're there, you can come in shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, I think that's good. I don't think I'm gonna add anything else.
Well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. It means I got a single. All right. Well, I got to wrap it up too because my son is dribbling the basketball in the garage unattended right now, and that's probably not a good thing. I can hear him dribbling through the headphones. So we should wrap it up and check out Bernard when again?
Right now, 7 p.m.
I know it's 7 p.m. and I always want to say Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Well, it's Tuesdays. Might be a change. I might be rearranging some stuff in my life, so I might have to change the time. But normally it's at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. But if you're on Clubhouse, just look for the room Thinkubator Tuesdays.
And by the way, when are you done for the year? Which could be done forever. When
I think June 10th is our last day.
June 10th. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. May 15th on my end, but it's the other reason why people got to go into higher ed, baby. I'm telling you.
So I can do nothing, just show up. What up,
May
y'all?
15th to August 15th, we in the clear. We in the clear. All right, y'all. Dope.
All right.
Keep those dates in mind. June 10th, May 15th. You might see these introverts a little bit more often on your city streets. All right. Take care, y'all.
Peace.
Oh, outro. I forgot.
I
What was
wasn't
I
gonna
thinking,
say.
Bernard?
I was hoping you were just gonna remember, but.
I was doing the same thing.
Well, nothing was coming through, so.
No, yeah, it was real light.